Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of She Coaches Coaches. I am so glad you're here. I've got a great conversation for you today, and I will tell you just a little bit about my guest, and then we're just going to dive right into the conversation. I've got a great guest for you today, and her name is Sabrina Safran Janeiro. So Sabrina is a really interesting woman. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a casting director turned on-camera talent coach, and she is the founder of Greenlight Talent Coaching. With a decade of experience in reality television and digital media casting, Sabrina has helped countless creators, influencers, hosts, models, and real people shine in front of the camera. Her work spans projects for major networks like MTV, VH1, NBC, and TLC, as well as all the digital heavyweights like BuzzFeed and Hearst magazines, including brands like Cosmopolitan, Delish, and Harper's Bazaar. Sabrina also brings prior experience as an on-camera host, where she covered red carpet events and charity functions while also writing entertainment news stories. Now, she's made a shift. And she is now shifted to coaching content creators, everyone from emerging talent to established influencers and business owners, helping them show up confidently and authentically on camera. When she's not empowering others to own their on-camera presence, Sabrina is passionate about championing Palestinian human rights and supports justice for all marginalized communities. She also loves taking long drives with her husband and hosting gatherings for family and friends. Additionally, she is a proud turtle mom to Ginger, a self-proclaimed foodie who's always experimenting in the kitchen and enjoys binge watching her favorite reality TV shows, documentaries, and true crime series. Sabrina, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me and for that introduction.
It's so great. So for the listeners, I fumbled her name right at the beginning. But what you've got to know that's so funny is that Sabrina and I have been working together for over a year. So it's not like I don't know her name. It's just that my brain went blank. Before I start asking you questions, there's something that it doesn't say in your bio, and I just really wanted to point this out. So because you and I have been working together for over a year, there's a quality that you have that your bio doesn't touch on. And so I just want the others that are listening to this to know. So for you that know me, one of my favorite things is to look for some of the those extra special qualities that an individual has. And Sabrina, if there is one quality that I could mention for you, it is that you are so loving and caring and so empathetic for the people that you're in connection with. And your bio doesn't state that. It shows all the big achievements and the big connections and the big things that you've done. But at the heart of it, that is the thing that I think is the most powerful for you. So I just really wanted to reflect that back to you on the show and just thank you again for really being such a loving human and for often doing the hard work that love involves, right? Yeah.
Do you have a Kleenex, Candy? Because
I do.
I'm tearing up over here. I wish can I reach in the screen to come and get one? No, I'm honestly, I'm very, very touched. And to know that my work, especially when it comes to marginalized groups specifically, and right now at the forefront of a lot of world things going on, which, I mean, that doesn't even begin to scrape the surface, but my advocacy for my community as a Palestinian, I mean, it just means the world to me, for you to highlight that and for you to say such lovely things in terms of my character. And it's all very genuine. I care and I love human beings. And I think that's also another reason I'm in this line of work, working with people and wanting them to succeed and really cultivate their growth. So it's for me, it's all interconnected. My advocacy, spending time with my husband, my little turtle baby, and also the work that I do,
Mm.
really caring about people. It comes from the most genuine place.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And I really witness that, when we speak. Can I ask
Mhm.
you a question about your niche? So
Yes.
you've got this big wealth of experience. Then you have narrowed it down to helping content creators. And so this is people like coaches, as an example, or an influencer or another business owner. And it's all around this showing up confidently and authentically on camera. So it's a pretty narrow niche. But what drew you to this niche? Like what's the attraction there for you?
Content creation is one of the fastest growing mediums. I feel like within digital media, it is digital media. And it's starting to connect the dots in places where in the past, even as recent as 10 years ago, we might not have seen an overlap. For example, we might not have ever thought an influencer would star in their own reality television show or be a public speaker giving a TED talk, or even just with the plethora of brand deals as that kind of starting point, but that has now become the most explosive way of marketing and advertising. Content creation taps into all facets of on camera work now, even acting, which I mean, for me, I'm not a self proclaimed acting coach by any means, since my bread and butter is the unscripted world, but content creation just touches all of those verticals. And I think also one of the things I love is that some of the people who are the best at it, or all of the people who really are the best at it, naturally have become an authentic voice to their audience, somebody their audience not only idolizes, but wants to be friends with. And I just love that level of rawness through a screen when you watch somebody who's really in tune with themselves. And as I say, for better or for worse, owns what they say. So that's why I think content creation at this stage of the game to really tap into all different types of folks is a good avenue to explore, not just, not even just speaking from a coaching financial standpoint, but in terms of the different types of content creation, the opportunities that are out there, and how they're all somewhat interconnected at this point.
Yeah. And this thing about content creation and using it intentionally and authentically to create relationships through the
Mhm.
camera. I mean, of course, people do it through writing as well, and that's really important. But you're an on-camera coach, and
Yes.
so this there's something that happens where people might turn the camera on and might do a recording, but they don't make that emotional connection with their
Mhm.
audience. And if they don't make that emotional connection, then people don't really want to, they don't want to draw closer. They're not more attracted to find out more about you. Do you have any ideas for how to increase that connection? I think that that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. Of course, it really depends, right? I could sit here and say, oh, it depends on a person's niche, the length of their videos, what their intention is. I do believe, for starters, to increase emotional engagement and connection with an audience, you have to have some sort of a mission. Even if you don't have like a specific niche, to have a core message is crucial if you're putting yourself out there and want to establish those connections. Um, but I also think another way to do that is to share parts of yourself that maybe your audience isn't expecting to hear. Let's say, okay, you are a mom of six, a stay at home mom, and your core message is how to create sustainable, budget friendly meals for families, right? That's your message, that's your content. Sharing stories, maybe you were cooking with one of your little ones in the kitchen and a funny moment happened, or maybe something more serious where you got burned cooking. I'm just pulling examples out of thin air, but
Mm.
those relatable moments where you can kind of speak to your audience's real experiences, like real lived moments, even from the funniest little moments to the more serious things. Storytelling is essential in content for there to be authenticity behind that content, but also knowing you're watching a real human. When
Mm.
we look at a screen and you're just delivering a message, that's fine and dandy. But if you want to retain an audience and you want them to trust you and trust you to the point where if your goal is to make sales or convert some of those folks to clients, if you're a coach, for example, there has to be trust. And for there to be trust, you have to share parts of yourself and make yourself emotionally vulnerable in front of your audience to achieve some of those things.
Yeah. And so the first thing that you mentioned about have a mission, and it doesn't have to be, solve world hunger, but something that matters to you. And so in your example of, a mom that's got a bunch of little ones and wants to cook budget friendly and healthy meals, the mission is something that so many of us have had. Eat healthy, be healthy, live a good life, and make sure we take care of our families. Right. And so that's a relatable mission. Then the next thing that you said that I thought was really interesting is that word relatable. So it's about where can I find that? Where can I, as a creator, be enough of myself in front of the camera, not necessarily showing absolutely everything, but some of my life, and feel like I'm relatable to the person who's watching it. So they're like, oh, I kind of had that experience too, or I know what that's like, or I like that person. And all of that starts to lead to this creating a relationship. But it starts with the mission, right? Like if you don't know what you're about, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to create a relationship with somebody. Talk a little bit. I know that you've got this, the 3 essentials that a content creator needs to keep in mind when they're creating on-camera content. Can you talk a little bit about these 3 essentials?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I've created a couple of posts about this on my Instagram, shameless plug at GLT Coaching, which I know we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But here's an opportunity, take it. But this is actually, my speaking on this and my creating content around it myself for my business is based off of a very frequently asked question, which you and I actually had this conversation off mic, if you will, off camera a few minutes ago, where it's like the 3 mistakes, which can have those negative connotations around it. But genuinely, that's what people ask. They're like, what are some mistakes like that I can avoid? Or what are some things I'm doing that I'm not mindful of? So really excited to be talking about this. To kind of kick that off, I think something so simple to folks who have been creating content for a while, maybe are more aware, but maybe for folks who are a little bit newer in the game, it might be something to keep in mind is to, if you're at least doing talking head videos, because obviously this does not apply for every video, but for talking head, to look at the camera and not the viewfinder. Obviously, it's so difficult not to do that. I'm guilty right now. I'm going between the camera and you, Candy, like looking,
Yeah.
and my hair's in my eye. I'm like, let me fix it, even though this is what I would tell my clients not to do. You know what I mean? And I own it. But I think that's just going to come with time and practice to keep doing talking heads. Even if you record on your own computer by yourself and pretending you're on a Zoom call, practice making that medium shot, which we could do a whole other podcast about, like how to properly film and the technical side of it. But I think the more you practice and the more you just put yourself out there and look at the camera and talk to it like a friend, easier said than done, then you'll naturally get better at it. But at least just even being aware of something that small, which might not be the biggest deal, when you go back to edit that tape, you're going to have a tape where you're not even looking at your audience, and that's something that's very important.
Right. So look at the camera, not the viewfinder. And I mean, I find that challenging because lots of times if I'm on camera, and because I'm on camera all the time on Zoom with clients, I have this thing where if I'm thinking and I'm wondering what's the next question that's the right thing to help them, I can't look at them. Right. And so I'm like looking off into the distance instead of looking at the camera. But that's a skill that you can get with practice. So I heard, look at the camera, do it lots, you'll be more comfortable. What other mistakes do you see? And I mean, we can call them mistakes that you want to avoid or essentials that you want to make sure you do, whichever way you like to approach it.
Yeah, either way. I mean, I think the second thing I'll say out of the big 3, my big 3 as I call them, a lot of people think in order to create a quality piece of content, they have to jam pack that one video or that one carousel or that one still image with just a ton of text, a ton of verbiage, a ton of info. And we all know now more than ever, with all the technology that's out there, what is the average attention span now? 3 seconds? It used to be like 10 seconds. It's definitely lower than that. So you have like a moment to get your message out, which I mean, again, we can go into a whole other rant on how to build an outline to, ditch the script, if you will, which we'll get into later. But um, overloading people with information is the second point I would drive home as to an essential that people should be aware of when creating content. Less is more. That saying exists for a reason. And if you just focus on one key point, throwing in a personal anecdote, a story, and then a takeaway your audience can get paired with a call to action, then that's when the most meaningful content happens, or honestly, the most viral. It doesn't even have to be the most meaningful. It'll just be more prone to that kind of virality. Virality, is that a word? Did I just
Yeah,
make that
it
up?
is a word. Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
that, the keep it less,
Yeah.
um and the reason that that's so important is that, most of the coaches that I might be talking to, they're experts. They know their stuff. And it's really easy to overwhelm your audience. I know that that's something that I deal with all the time. It's like, well, here's another interesting thing, and here's another helpful thing, and here's this, here's the next step. And lots of helpful content is important, but only if they can integrate it, like, so there's that saying that says we don't need more content, we need more integration, right? And so your point is so helpful, just reminding people to, maybe do more pieces instead of trying to squish it all into one. Just do one point. I really, really like that. Yeah.
Thank
What's
you.
the third thing that you would recommend for?
Yeah, the third thing, it's funny because I feel like you and I have had this conversation as well off camera where it's like, oh, to me it feels like super obvious, but I know that maybe this reminder will be helpful, is that you do not have to put on a persona of what you think your audience wants for people to like you. Because let me tell you, especially in all my years of casting, some of the people, not some, the people we did not cast the most were people who were trying too hard. You do not want to be a try hard, because your superpower is being authentically you. There's only one you, not just by DNA, but by the person you are, by what you represent, by your core message. Even if there's obviously going to be overlap in certain spaces with certain types of content, there's only one you. There's only one way to deliver that. So don't, as hard as it is sometimes, because you think, oh, I have to, just have a smile pasted on my face the whole time and deliver the message just like this. And it's like, it's not always going to be happy. Or even if it is, breathe. Like, it's okay, breathe, blink. Like, so I see a lot of that. I see a lot of content creators trying, especially newer folks who are emerging creators, trying to kind of put on a facade, or like, hey guys, what's up? What's good? I'm like, no, just say, hey, like, welcome back to my channel, or whatever you want to open with. But um, taking that moment and being very intentional as far as how you deliver the message doesn't mean putting on an act. It just means bringing out a more, I say, amplified version of you, because it's super cliche, right? People say, be yourself. You could easily say that that's the third piece of advice as well. Be yourself. I say, be yourself is a thing of the past. Be an amplified version of yourself is the
Mm,
thing to aim for. Because even in casting, when I was a casting director, and I learned this from my colleagues, so I cannot take full credit for this saying, but to this day, I tell clients, you think you're at a 10 when you deliver content or you deliver whatever you're doing. You think you're at a 10, you're really at a 5. I need you at a 20, because the camera does
mm,
not lie. The camera does not lie. We can be having a conversation that's, hunky dory. It feels great, but then you play it back and it's kind of flat. It's like, why? I was just being myself. Be yourself. Just turn it up a little notch. That's all. And that comes with practice and technical training.
right. And it's really interesting because the first thing that you said about making
Mhm.
sure that you have a mission, I know that that was kind of, it was almost uh, the most important tip before you actually even got to the tip. But that first thing about knowing your mission, and then this third one about be an amplified version of you, both of those relate to personal work. And to me, that's the value of working with somebody like you, working with somebody who's a coach that helps you go inside and give yourself permission to be yourself, whatever that is. Give yourself some time and some curiosity to figure out what your mission actually is. And they kind of go together, because I think that, like, tell me if I'm on the right track. I think that when you're really connected with your mission, you've got a lot more life in you. So it really leads you to that, be that more amplified version. It's sort of like it kind of helps boost that energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the more you're connected with your mission, you'll find that naturally it's going to be a lot easier to show up as yourself because what you represent and the content you're creating is something you're passionate about, something you can speak on in your sleep, something that you can help people with if it's solutions based, something you can relate to people on if it's more from personal experience or a mix of the two, if you're an expert in a field, something you've been studying, but if you're passionate about it, it just comes a little bit more easily. So that's why the core mission, to your point, is essential to all content creation, because if you don't have a core message, then how are you going to attract the right people to you to listen to you?
Right. Yeah. Just still thinking about this being the more amplified version of you. Do you have any
Mm-hmm.
tips for how people can do that? Like, it sounds good. It makes sense. I can imagine looking at somebody's replay and seeing when they're, toned down versus when they're more amplified. But the person who wants to create that content, what are a couple of tips for them?
Sure. I think in terms of amplifying your personality, one of the key things to focus on is the confidence behind your persona too. That's a whole other facet I focus on with clients, is building up that confidence as well as that authenticity on camera, no matter how seasoned they are, because everybody could always use a little feedback and, direction, if you will. So to kind of get yourself initially in that mindset before you actually show up on camera, a quick tip I always like to tell clients is to think back to a time where you achieved something really great or something really good happened to you, or just something that just you're proud of. It could be anything. And just close your eyes literally for a couple of minutes. You can set a timer if you'd like. And really channel that energy and imagine, like, replay that moment in your mind, like have that memory on a projector in your brain when your eyes are closed, and just literally feel how you felt in that moment. Naturally, you're already putting yourself in a mindset to not only relax your nerves a little bit because you're feeling a little bit more comfortable thinking of a positive memory, but your confidence naturally boosts in that sense. So that's my first quick tip ahead of any, even if it's just public speaking, or if you're going on a call, if you're a coach going on a call with a client, maybe you're a little nervous because it's the first call. It's a great way to get a confidence boost, but also calm your nerves and get yourself in the right headspace. Because that's number one, really, is doing that. I also think to practice on a more technical level, whether it could be anything. It could be if you shoot with the professional camera, fantastic. But most of us use our cell phones. So get your phone, and it doesn't have to be on a tripod. It can if you want. Hold it selfie style if you want, or tripod. And you can just talk to it, literally put a timer, 3 minutes. Talk to your phone about anything you want. Anything you want. It could be about how your day was. It could be, I don't know, something annoying your coworker did. It could be about, oh, I can't believe what I saw in my favorite reality show, whatever the case. Just talk to the camera and then stop recording and play it back. We all hate watching ourselves, but it is essential to growth, right? Is to confront that version of ourselves and really take notice of things, because we're all our worst critic as it is. But when you watch yourself back, you'd be surprised at how observant you'll be even to your own actions. Oh, was I not looking at the camera? Oh, was I talking kind of like this when I could talk like this? Oh, my
Right.
hands, what are my hands doing? So that way, and you can do this a few times, a few different topics. And again, that'll naturally help you warm up. But then if you do that right before you're ready to film your actual piece of content, you'll be a little bit warmed up technically, vocally, but then also you'll be relaxed. And that's half the battle, is your nerves.
Hmm. So much of this is about the emotional state that you're in,
Yeah.
feeling more
Yeah.
comfortable, feeling more authentic, feeling more amplified. And also there's just a feeling of more life there. One of the
Yeah.
things that I love to see people do, and I don't know if anybody else does this, but content creators who've been around for a while, I love to go back and look at some of their earlier stuff, right? Because you really see how much they've grown. And you also see where they're actually still the same. So you can sort of get that thread about who they really are, what really makes them excited. And that is a relatable piece as well. So when these people are doing these sort of record 3 minutes and just try it out and learn from yourself, also don't wait until it's perfect before you're going to post it. Like good enough is good enough, right? You start doing these videos and not today or tomorrow or the next day, but 6 months from now or a year from now, you're going to forget that you've got 20, 30, 50 videos sitting there. And it is such a great testament to how you've grown. And all of those videos, whether they're newer or they are more experienced, they've all got value, right?
Yeah. And that's a great point you bring up because that is something that I pride myself on as a coach is perfection not being the goal. Because
Mm.
you're never going to achieve perfection, and that's okay. Being your most imperfect self not only is good enough, but that's what attracts and keeps an audience around because they feel like they can relate to you.
Yeah. Well, and a perfect example is the reality TV stars that you've worked with. Some of those
Mhm.
people, they're weird, right? Like plain and simple, but they're real. And that, right. And that's what makes them engaging, right? Is like they're a real person
Mhm.
and they're not the way I would be, but I can appreciate that. That's what makes it attractive. I don't know what you think. That's just
No, I mean, we could have a whole podcast series on reality TV from the things I've seen and auditions and, talent I've talked to. But I always tell people to, and I think I've mentioned this to you as well before, but it's true. If you're not willing to be an open book and whatever skeletons from your closet, they're going to come out. I mean, that's just how it is. You become a public figure, you put yourself out there, right to privacy is kind of out the window. You know what you're signing up for.
mhm.
Hot take, but it's anybody working in TV would tell you the same thing. But if you're not willing to be an open book and be your most authentic, whether for better or for worse, as I say, then reality TV is just not the shtick for you. And again, every show is different. I mean, you're not going to have to bear it all on like a food competition show, for example. That's a little more wholesome than like a house where it's like the real world and, there's
Yeah.
relationships and all sorts of stuff going on. But it's case by case, but generally for reality TV, you have to be willing to be unfiltered, your most authentic self, and own it.
And that's a place where a content creator could actually learn from because, as a content creator, as a coach or a consultant who wants to have a YouTube channel or do lots of reels or whatever, you know, there's this fear like how exposed do I need to be? And do I really want to be that exposed? So how do you help people figure out what's their boundary on what they will talk about on video and how they will show up? Is there sort of a strategy there?
I think, which I hate to use that blanket statement to each their own, I think it also definitely in that case depends on your niche and what you do. I can completely understand and respect, for example, let's say you're a dermatologist and you happen to go viral on TikTok. Of course, most of your content is going to be teaching content, perhaps client testimonials or things that are a little bit more buttoned up, with the exception of all the pimple popping and all those types of things. I don't know if you've seen those on your feed, but they freak
Yeah,
me out.
I
Anyway,
delete those actually because it's too gross.
TikTok keeps giving me these ear cleaning videos, side note, and it's kind of like, you can't look away though. Like I'm literally sitting here like, what am I watching? But I'm like still looking at it. Like
Yeah.
I admit it. I admit it to the world. That's what's on my TikTok for you page. But I do scroll. Then it's a recipe video or an animal. It's fine. Anyway, um, yeah, I think for something like that where it's setting a boundary, I think truthfully, because I'm kind of old school like this a little bit, I still really love pen to paper type of work. And it could be as simple as asking yourself a question. What is my definition of too far? Because
Mm.
everybody's definition of too far is going to be different as far as like some people are comfortable, I don't know, using the restroom and filming a selfie video, or some people are like, I'm going to have a turtleneck buttoned up to my forehead and I'm going to cook a pie in my kitchen, you know? So I think that asking that question first and foremost, based on your core message, is super important. But I also believe, um, try to brainstorm too, because I always say this too to my clients when you're trying to create a piece of content that's going to relate to an audience, is to pick a personal moment, anecdote, or story. Um, Make like a list of like bulleted like story times that you would share on camera, and maybe some things that you wouldn't share just for
Mm,
you. And if
hmm
you put them side by side, then you'll be able to see, okay, this is what my too far boundary is, and this is what I'm willing to talk about, and the type of kind of storytelling I'm willing to do. So a little bit of an old school piece of advice, but I think that there's something in visually seeing on paper what is my definition of too far.
yeah. And so again, that's the place where the work that you do is really coaching, right?
Yeah.
We haven't even really touched on all of the technical things that you can support somebody with, but all of this, like being more you, like understanding what your mission is, amplifying yourself and your own voice and your own personality, figuring out for yourself, what are my boundaries, what are not my boundaries, what am I willing to do, what am I not willing to do. Those are those are all so personal.
Mhm.
And it also reminds me that there's a piece here where we start to think that if we're on camera a lot and creating a lot of content, that somehow it will get away from us. Like
Mm.
we forget that we're actually the ones that are in control. We're responsible for how we show up. We're the ones that say, yeah, I'm not willing to talk about that. That's not my, I'm not talking about that. That's not what I want to talk about today or ever. Right. And so the perfect example is, the influencers that do a lot of photography or film, and they have their children in videos. And that is getting to be a hot topic. And I think it's going to be an even hotter topic. But is that something that you're willing to do? Yes or no? How do you feel about featuring your children in film? Do you put, the big sticker on their face and still have them, but, refer to them as little B or little C or whatever? So you're not actually advertising who they are, and you're really respecting their body, their life, their personality? Or are you like, you know what? We're just a family and we're just going to do these things. So finding your place. I love how you said that. And remembering that you're in control, that you get to
Yeah.
choose, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and with the kids issue too, I mean that's like a whole
Oh,
other topic. I feel we could go on, but when you involve any other person, even if it's like your spouse, I mean there has to be that consent there. So that's why it's like you're in control, but then there is of course that line where it's like where is too far once you start putting in other people, specifically when you're dealing with minors as well. Even if they're your own kids, people don't think twice about it, but the
mm-hmm.
internet, while it can be a fulfilling place, it can be, you know, kind of a murky place too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. But this place where, you're reminding people that they get to choose. They get to choose what's
yes.
right. They get to choose the kind of stories that they want to share. They get to practice as much as they want to
Mhm.
practice, as long as they're not trying to find that perfect. I think that that's really, really
Yeah.
helpful. Wow, Sabrina, we've covered a lot of stuff. Can you, there's more questions that I would love to ask you, but I just feel like that's sufficient for today. Can you tell us
Yeah.
a little bit more about how people can find out more about working with you? And I know that you have a really great free gift for offer as well that can help them. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I could talk to you for hours. I mean, I feel like I do regularly anyway. So I am so appreciative of this opportunity to come and speak with you on your podcast, which I love. All of you listening, go listen to her other episodes too, because Candy is fantastic. But I feel like as far as my business goes, so where people can find me, that's what you asked. I'm like, okay. Okay.
Yes.
So where people can find me, www.gltcoaching.com, or I should just say gltcoaching.com. That's my website. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Sabrina Safran Janeiro, and I have a business page, which you will find in my bio on LinkedIn as well. But connect with me. I love making new connections. And if there are questions, I invite you to slide into my DMs and ask anything you're curious about, any of your burning questions that you have. And also on Instagram and TikTok at GLT Coaching. Admittingly, I need to beef up my TikTok a little bit because of this whole thing with the ban and then it coming back. I slacked a little bit there, but Instagram is thriving. TikTok is thriving soon. And then I do have a freebie that'll be posted on my social media and across my website as well. 5 ways to ditch the script, because I also encourage my clients and creators all across the board to use an outline to be more authentic in how they deliver information versus a word for word script, which we could have gotten into and talked about for hours. But if you want to know more about that, snag my freebie there and feel free to ask me any questions at all. You can contact me through LinkedIn, my website, my DMs on Instagram, whatever works for you. I'm here.
Oh, that's wonderful. And take her up on that. Slide into her DMs, ask her questions. She's very helpful and she's got a huge body of knowledge. And then sign up for that freebie. I'll make sure to put all those links in the episode notes, so it's going to be easy for you. If you're driving or you're on the treadmill or whatever, you don't have to stop and get your pencil and paper out. Just go through and click through those and find out more about Sabrina and learn how she can help you. So, Sabrina, really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I've learned a lot. Well, I always learn a lot from you. I appreciate it.
Now, I always learn a lot from you. And I, again, am so appreciative. Thank you so much for the conversation and hope to do it again soon in the near future. If there's ever anything else you want to talk about, I could do this for hours. You know me, I'm a chatterbox, so I'm here.
I love it. I love it. Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this week. This is one of those episodes that you're going to want to save. You're going to want to go back and listen to again and take notes and apply what she has shared with you. There is so much gold in this that is going to really help you create your content. And if you're a newer coach and you want to get on video, but you're a little uncomfortable, Sabrina is the person who can really help you. And there's lots of tips here in this episode that you can use just to get started. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and your energy and that you are here listening to us. And I wish you all the best. I'll be back to talk to you again next week. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be. Hey, it's Candy, and I am so glad you're here. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to this episode. Now, before you go, don't forget to take my How to Find Your Best Coaching Niche quiz. You can find it at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Talk to you soon.